Okay, we're going to talk about sound resonance. We're going to talk about healing. We're going to talk about rife. We're going to talk about scalar waves. We're going to talk about creating your own reality and the use of sound. But first, we're going to cleanse the air. It's going to be a loud noise, so if you're sensitive, plug your ears. So we cleanse any negativity. Cleanse any negativity between me and anyone, anywhere, at any time, in any dimension, in any lifetime. Okay. And we're going to burn some sage here. Keep cleansing any negativity, any negative thoughts. And we're going to talk about, well, I've studied sound healing for decades. I studied tuning fork stuff like the last 4 years. Toning, rife frequencies. There's a frequency to cure every disease. All right. So we're cleansing. We call in all available angels, Mother, Father, God. We cleanse this space and everywhere that my voice goes. Whatever my voice resonates with whoever's listening, and you can tone and resonate back. This is cleansing with the highest intention of love and light and raising the vibration of Mother Earth and her people, and healing everyone involved in any way, in any lifetime, in any dimension. And so it is done. All right. Now we're going to cap this. And then I'm going to get cozy. True. Okay. So I studied rife technology, rife frequencies in the 90s starting. Royal Rife, you can look at that stuff up. And there's a frequency that will knock out every single disease, okay? So there's a frequency for cancer. There's a frequency for everything. So look up rife frequencies. If you have an Android phone, there's something called the Z app, and that's frequencies for every disease, okay? Let's see. I have probably about 150 tuning forks that I got over the last decade. And so the ones I just did are called the angel tuning forks. And what they do is they act like sage. They cleanse the air. It's about 3,900 hertz. Okay, and one of my favorite ones is this one, this 111. I don't know if you can hear it at all, but it's like in the sacred chambers. And so this 111 will vibrate with my frequency, and it will create a resonance. It's still going. This one's so strong. Okay, so say you have a tuning fork, this is just an example, of 100 hertz, and you have another one that's 120 hertz. So, and you play them at the same time. The difference between the two tuning forks is called the resonance. So, like when you say to somebody, oh, that resonates with me, that don't, that's based in sound. That's based in frequency. Okay? So, I've known about the rife healing stuff for decades. Like I said, the 90s, that was a long time ago. I've known about tuning fork healing. Amazing, just completely aligning the whole body with tuning forks. These frequencies I have that align the hips, they just kind of put themselves back into place. Have the, the Om, just Venus, Sun, stomach, Cancer, muscle, grief, turning grief to joy. There's just tuning forks for everything. And so now when you use a tuning fork, you go 6 feet out in your biofield, which is interesting, right? Because during the pandemic, it was 6 feet. So we kind of stopped resonating with other people in mass. Yeah, there was lots of house parties, lots of people still got together. But in general, the resonance that was creating the feedback to the former reality was released, and we're moving to new earth and a new reality, more self-aware. So anyway, one side, I forget. I think it's the left side is the mother and the right side is the father. I don't remember. I have tons of books on sound healing and the biofield, and so you have to look that up yourself. But at the farthest distance, that's your birth, right? And so sometimes when you're doing tuning fork healing, I use the 174 for most of my healings, and it's it doesn't have these on the end. When these are in the end, then the energy comes down here. And my 174, it's open on the top, and so that's what I usually use. So when anywhere in the biofield where you feel sticky, that's kind of where energy's stuck. So you just kind of keep moving it out, gooey, feels kind of gooey. And the closer you get to the body, the more it is now. So every disease you have, anything at all, ever, it forms in your biofield first. So if you can do some sort of, toning, sound vibration, you can, it pretty much says that any sort of tuning fork will wake up your biofield to make it adjust to its natural state. But each one has its own different thing that it does. So as you're coming in closer and closer to the body, you get right here, you're now, right? So each year, and it's funny when I do healings with people, and I do it with like psychic readings too. So I'll come along. This one guy was doing, right? So I was on his right side, and I was coming in. I was barely in, and I saw a crow on his shoulder. And I said, I said something to him, and he said, yeah, he had a pet crow at like the age 10 or 12 that had died. And he was still completely sad about it. This man was 42, and it was still in his field. And so I had the vision, and I just kind of kept working the energy, but also talking to him about it at the same time, letting him kind of heal the trauma of the animal that he lost when he was so young. That was his bestie. And so you'll just feel things. You'll intuitively know things. And I'm like, well, how am I going to know when I'm going? How am I going to know? I'm studying, and I took all the different courses and the certifications and everything for the sound and the frequency. And I'm like, well, how am I going to know just by putting a tuning fork in the field? But you kind of do, because it's kind of icky. And then when you're doing a tuning fork with someone, and it goes, right? Okay. Well, if it goes and stops really quick, they've definitely needed it, because it'll make a sound and stop. When their biofield's really healthy, it'll just keep going. So it's interesting when I have people over to do healings, and I will hand them the tuning fork and show them how to do it. And I will get out of their field, so I don't cause a resonance. And it's funny, sometimes when people come, they come with their partners. And it's funny, because if the partner gets anywhere near the field, it changes the resonance of what the tuning fork will do, or how long it'll last, or how short it'll last. It's fascinating. And so I worked with that for years. I had visions in my 20s, one strong vision, because I had a really close friend that played the saxophone, was really into music. And I had a dream about him in a past life, and he was using sound to move giant rocks around and create pyramids. And I thought it was fascinating, and I was talking to him about it. And I've learned later, that was like my early 20s, about sound moving objects. And a lot of the channeled information says that sound and intention created everything. Well, everything has a frequency. Every single thing has a frequency. So I know that. I talk about that. I teach that, about like that we all can tune into a different reality, which I thought was metaphorical, but apparently it's real. The Mandela effect stuff, the quantum shift. Yeah. So when you're tuning a car radio station, you can tune into the rock station. You can turn into the country station. Okay, they're both still there. They're there in the spectrum all the time. But your radio receiver is only tuning in to the country station if you're on that, right? That's the same way you are. You're a receiver. You're only tuning into one version of reality based on your frequency. Your frequency is based on your belief system, on your emotions, on your life experience, on what you focus on what you eat, on who you're around, on what your thoughts are, on what you repeatedly do every day. And so you tune into a different reality than someone else. And it stunned me when I realized that was literal. Like I could literally sit there and see something someone else didn't see, or you're listening to a song and they hear something different than you hear. And when I was young, I used to think that it was just something, weird between people. Like gaslighting or whatever, like you experienced a completely different thing than I did, like you're lying. Because I mean, I have a photographic memory and I know blah, blah, blah. I didn't know that someone could experience a different reality right next to me. I didn't know that I would move to a reality where the sun was yellow and then the sun was white. You know, the quantum shift stuff, I didn't know. Psychic surgery stuff, I studied tons of that. And now I know that is a timeline shift, a dimensional shift, more than it is, you know, like reaching into a physical body. It's interdimensional. And now, you know, all this stuff coming out with the, you know, UFOs in the ocean and stuff. We've all known, right? All light workers and starseeds about, well, UFOs, but also interdimensional. Like I've traveled interdimensionally. I've died and come back. I've left my body. I died twice. I was taken out in the undertow in Hawaii in my 20s and shot out to sea and left my body. And once I just completely just left and it was over, then I popped up. And then I knew that I was not just my body. I was probably about 22. I never unknew that. And then in a car, I felt like I froze to death in Port Townsend here. I woke up, but I didn't wake up in my body. I woke up hovering over my body. I couldn't feel my body. And I remember a consciousness going, well, did I want to live? Because, you know, at that time, I had kind of a conscious thought a lot where I didn't want to. So, you know, so I remember firmly going, yes, I want to live. And when I come back into my body, I barely had any breath and I barely had any blood flowing through. And I got some help and I got, you know, it was like hypothermia and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I died. So I died. I had the choice to die. I forget why I was telling you about dying. Oh, shifting realities and other dimensions. And so now I know that if I die, I just wake up in another reality. One big Mandela effect for me, well, my heart moving, because I'd had a bunch of heart tests. The doctor had said I had a heart attack. That was like in 2014. It turned out I didn't. But I seen the ultrasound and everything, see where my heart was located. And then the books and stuff, it was changed. The kidneys, you know, were back here. Now they're up in here. The Lion and the Lamb in the Bible. So anatomy, astrology, you know, songs, movies, where we are in the sky, that, you know, I've said this in other videos, but the We Are Here maps where we were on the Sagittarius arm and now we're on the Orion arm. So once I realized in 2016 about that I could shift realities literally. So it wasn't just, hey, think positive, create positive reality. It's where you focus on is literally the reality you shift in. What you believe in, what you're engaging in, what energy you participate in every day, you draw more of that to you. What you believe in, what your emotions are, what, you know, shadow work comes up to, again, say, well, what do you believe? Do you believe this now? Well, what do you prefer? So I'd studied all that stuff and, you know, and began consciously creating my reality by further letting go of the matrix, right? Letting go of my real estate office, letting go of my ranch, letting go of my bakery, letting go of my 16-year relationship, letting go of every single thing and focusing on spirit and my mission. My mission at the time, I had a vision about something, and I went into this, what led to a big free speech case, and my, you know, some light workers and starseeds, you know, break down the foundations of corporations, and, you know, my big free speech case changed the world, but it never really, it didn't necessarily bring light into my life at the time that I saw. Let's just leave it at that. And so I've spent my whole life trying to be the best version of me and get rid of every trigger and every trauma. And it just goes on and on and on, right? Because you come to Earth with your DNA, with your ancestors' trauma and triggers and past lives and versions of you in other dimensions and other aspects of yourself and other aspects of your soul. And so I left the matrix more and more and starting more and more when I come to Port Townsend. And I accidentally, oddly lost housing in 2014. And I'd always been able to kind of create money. You know, I got a degree in this and I had a business in that, and but all of a sudden things shifted. And in 2014, I became homeless and I lived in hotels for a couple years. And I began to work with my metaphysical knowledge firsthand, but I also went into depression, into different thoughts that began to, resonate, to keep attracting, because what you focus on, you attract more of. And then, like I said, then in 2016, so I lived in hotels for like 2 years. Then in 2016, I became, actual homeless. So just living in my vehicle. And I also became aware of the Mandela effect at that time, which I call a quantum shift. And I was like, oh my God. I have moved realities. How did I do that? How do I move to a reality I prefer? And I began to focus on every single trigger and trauma and just really dove into shamanic healing, energy healing every single day with my spiritual advisor and my healer for like a decade now. And we still do the work every day. And channeling, different entities. She does, and I do, but not as like, we're just step aside. She's just incredible. And so it took over and over and over, and the darkness that would come in, and the dark night of the soul, over and over and over. And then, just clearing it. And every time you clear something, you kind of level up, you level up. And when life gets easier, then it gets harder. I think I said that in the last video, that once you have a place where you have warmth and where you're living indoors and where you're warm and safe, you go, oh, well, now it's safe to deal with all the grief I didn't deal with and the trauma of living in a car for 5 years, which I didn't think I would ever do. I mean, it just happened, like the frog in the boiling pot thing. It just kind of happened. And then it was weird and it was hard. And then I was one with nature. And then I was just translucent of just like living in this astral life. It was like I was a ghost, right, among the people, but I was still alive, and I'm still have to, move around and find food and find bathrooms. But at the same time, I'm a ghost and people don't really see me. And I just kind of blended in. I remember in my 20s, Spirit said, you'll know that you've succeeded in life when you die while you're still alive. I didn't really know what that meant, but, I had a forestry company. I worked for the Forest Service. Then I got my own forestry company. Then at a ranch, we were millionaires. I had a real estate company. And then all of a sudden, 20 years into my life, I had a vision, and I jumped into anti-corruption and standing up for victims, and boom, boom. Lost my 16-year relationship, lost my house, lost my ranch, lost my business, lost everything. And, but I knew I was on the right path because I would just get constant information from Spirit. And I knew what I was doing was my mission. And, I haven't really got off the track here of resonance, but I'm just saying that there's a lot, consciously creating reality. But I kind of abandoned my spiritual teachings because I got so depressed and I got so on survival, and then I wasn't necessarily applying them. And then I was able to kind of get it and visualize and manifest being in this house, and then manifest housing and manifest help, and kind of scratch and claw back out into regular reality where I lived indoors. And the last 3 years have been, raising my frequency more and more and clearing that old stuff. And then if you look at the Ryan channelings that I do with Linda Lovett, that resonance really burst me through to the next level of letting go of my just couldn't let go of the resonance, the attachment to depression. No matter how much I'm like, okay, well, I got food, I got warmth, I got peace. Nobody's bugging me, but I'm just so depressed. And I focused on something in 2022. I began focusing on these videos and things, and I I started to come out of it with something to focus on, to distract me from my depression. And then, gosh, it was like a year and a half ago, and we started the Ryan channelings, and then boom, this frequency went through me and really just moved through this other level. And then Ryan was teaching me about Jiak, which is a dragon that's an aspect of myself that I channel, and Gold Star Trio, which I now channel. And I just opened up to these higher and higher frequencies, and my depression just lifted and lifted and lifted. My PTSD didn't. I just still like today. I mean, yesterday I woke up scared, just panic attack scared, and I heard someone holler my name. It's like, you ever have that in a dream, and then you think it's in this reality and it's not. And then today was a knock on the door, just a really loud knock. It woke me up, and I thought my panic attack was so strong, and when I got up, there wasn't anybody there. So, and then I had some other things come up today that I had a bunch of panic attacks over. So I still have that, but my depression, my will to live, my wanting to be alive and the beauty around me and being in the now lifted through frequency. And if you work with spiritual entities, if you work with anybody that's channeled, that's a very high vibration. And the channelers have to, doing it for years to build up that frequency, and that, it's all frequency. So every single thing has a frequency. Okay. So that every chair, every food has a certain frequency. Every, you see those things that they kind of clip to different plants and they make a sound. Everything has its own frequency. So in that, I have my own frequency, and my frequency changes every day based on my thoughts, based on what I eat, based on, emotions. If I get sad, or if I get my feelings hurt, or if whatever I dwell in every day is a certain frequency. And then if you interact with a plant or a tree or a rock or a tuning fork or another person or food, you have a resonance, that frequency of whatever that is, and the resonance in between is creating this healing or lack of, like bringing negative into your life or positive into your life. And so yesterday I was listening to a Cryon channeling, which if you follow my stuff, I've been doing for 30 years, since the very first Cryon book. And I hadn't really thought about sound and resonance quite in this way. So I know about, manifesting reality, that, what you focus on, you feed, and that your thoughts attract other thoughts. What you're doing every day, you attract people and things similar to that or the same. But I hadn't really processed it quite like I did last night with the Cryon channeling and then the download that Spirit gave me. And so every thought you have has a frequency. Your consciousness has a frequency. So for example, if you have anywhere in your body that has pain and you focus on it, you focus your consciousness there. And you can focus, colors, any sort of energy, any sort of symbol. You focus your consciousness there, and your consciousness is a frequency, and it breaks up that matter, and it breaks up that pain, and it puts a resonance there from your thought. And they also say the information out there that each cell has its own brain, so it has its own thought. So that's a whole nother frequency and resonance. So it was this download of information last night about my consciousness creating a frequency that's resonating with other people's consciousness. And I don't know if I'll get to it right now, but that's kind of like the scalar waves that I've talked about before, and the energy that's always there. And when you tap into it, then it comes to you. Okay. You have the waves and the patterns and everything's there. And when you tap into it, you see it. So just like the radio station, just like the TV, all the stations are playing at once, but you only tune into one at a time. You only tune into one version of reality in every now moment. And that's based on your own personal frequency. You transmit a frequency, and you also receive a frequency. You receive a frequency, and that's the reality that you're seeing. But your thoughts and your emotions and your triggers are transmitting a frequency. all the time, every day. And there's a lot to it, but it's hard to put, it's all quantum and it's hard to put into human words. I could send it to you telepathy wise, but so it's just more validation to thoughts create reality and focusing on your thoughts. It's not necessarily about, I'm going to be positive to create a positive reality. It's what do you prefer? What do you want your world to look like? Who do you want in your life? Who do you want to repel from your life? Who do you want to draw into your life? Not by the name of the person, but by the frequency of what you want to feel. And then we go, well, I want to be happy and I want to be joyous. Well, okay, but where is your thoughts all the time? Machination and this person's that and someone's out to get you. Or, and thinking about maybe the foods you don't like or the places you don't like or what you don't like to do instead of what you do like to do. That's why when you visualize something, you're not necessarily drawing into your life that exact thing. You're drawing to your life the best version of that thing, whether it's a house or whatever, based on the feeling you create. So when you visualize, say, the house of your dreams, you're visualizing it and you're feeling what it's like to be there, and you're creating a frequency. And that's going out and attaching to like mind of where your higher self can bring that. And it takes time because we're in a free will planet, right? We can't have instant creation because humans can't fully be trusted with that. We're getting more to that. But like if you had a thought and you instantly created it, and things that are positive or like of a higher vibration, they're exponentially go out more, create more. Negative thoughts, there's more time to create it. So you're not going to necessarily create bad things, and you can't create negative things for other people. You only create what versions. So you might create a negative version or a bad version of someone that's in your life, or a positive version of them, based on your own thoughts and your own frequency. It's hard to believe all this stuff, but that's another frequency, right? So some of the things about resonance, okay, consciousness, right? And food. Each food has a frequency. And last summer we were channeling stuff about Ryan, talking about a color, right? So if you have an artificial coloring, it doesn't have the light codes, the color light codes, like real food. So a tomato you grew in your yard, the frequency, that red, is amazing. It is healing. It is the frequency of that vibrant color of a version of red. Organic things that aren't, fake colored, and green plants and all these colored flowers. It was just so amazing. This channeling session we had about color, right? And so each color has a frequency, but the colors of natural colors, so natural real food, has a frequency, a vibration, has light codes in the actual color of what you're eating, and that raises your frequency. Okay, and so and everybody's seeing reality different. It's shocking. It's shocking that you can sit right next to somebody and see something different. But if you think about it, like psychologically, your triggers and traumas are a filter in which you see everything through. And they also create a frequency. But to literally hear somebody saying something or see somebody doing something different than the person next to you, I didn't think that was a possibility. But now, over the last 10 years, 12 years, I've seen some profound things. I mean, I've seen supernatural things my whole life. I've been psychic my whole life. I've seen other dimensions. I've had spirits come to me. I know things before they happen. I've had a lot of that, but I didn't have, I talked to spirit when I was young. I talked a lot to Jesus. I went to a church with my grandma and stuff, and I read Psalms and Matthew, and I had different encounters of dark entities, and I would always invoke Jesus. And so I kind of had that spiritual and psychic background, but I didn't know that it's so supernatural to me to really fully believe, I'm not even 100% there, that someone can be right next to me and experience a completely different version of reality as me. And now that we get closer and closer to this next phase of New Earth, like going through the eye of the needle, as Bashar calls it, we really have to refine our field, refine what we want, let go of what we don't want. And so it's even more tangible where we're right there going, what? You don't see that? No, you do see that? Or just someone's name, or the way someone looks, what someone's interested in, like just these shifts in realities are so quick. And if you're fragmented or stressed out, not able to like relax into who you really are, your authentic self, you might be experiencing some sort of chaos magic or whatever, but a chaotic energy where you're bouncing in and out of reality. So you like might remember this, then you might remember that, then you might remember this. And so, yeah, okay. So, right. So when you're aggravated, for example, in someone's energy, you might feel a little agitated. It's kind of triggered you, emotionally, but also a trigger, you just feel off. And so if you get out of their field, you might feel different. But if you're in their field and you don't really recognize it, what's happening is, say I'm sitting next to someone and they're like grumpy, right? They're like, oh, just all negative about everything. And it's hitting my field and I'm feeling icky. My higher vibration is resonating with them and it's feeling off to me. But there's a resonance that's raising their vibration. It always goes higher. So, if I'm feeling down in the dumps and I'm hanging out with somebody's, hey, then my frequency would raise. So when you feel off around someone, with the saying of, I don't resonate with them, I don't resonate with that. That's what it means. That person's at one frequency, I'm at another frequency. And the frequency between us is the resonance. I don't resonate with them, or I do. Like tuning forks that are used like to tune pianos or different things, or like things where you'll make a note, or example Cryon was given about the violin, or even a guitar string. Sometimes you do one and then the others go, that's resonance. That's you're a tuning fork. And the highest vibration in the room tunes everyone else. And if they're all lower vibration or grumpy or negative, they're going to get agitated. You're going to get irritated by your higher frequency. And we're kind of experiencing that in mass now. Okay. So the longer that you can hold your core frequency, I don't mean the longer. I mean, if you can holding your core frequency so that other people don't depress you, don't bring you down, whatever comes into your life, go, okay, well, there's that. And it might stress you out, might trigger your PTSD, might trigger your panic attack, but then, and you'll feel that. And then when you get back to your core frequency, right? So never make decisions when you're triggered, and you're sitting there and you know that you're relaxed, you're at your core frequency, then you make your decisions. But when you're at your core frequency, you go, okay, well, this happened. And I can choose how to respond. There's nothing I can do about it happening. I can choose to respond. And I remember when I was younger, first kind of understanding my emotions and relationships with people and stuff in my early 20s. And I'm understanding my hormones. I was like, sometimes I'd watch a commercial and I would just cry. I'd just be bawling. Or I would see a picture of my grandma or something and I would just be so sad and cry. Next hour, next day, I might get news of someone really close to me dying. And I'm like, I'm not down. I'm just dealing with it. I'm just like, because it was hormonal. It was emotions. It was stunning to me how why does this bother me? And why does this not bother me when this would seemingly be worse? And then another level of that is, say, for example, I have some pretty extreme PTSD sometimes. So I will be afraid of every noise, afraid something's going to happen to me, afraid somebody's going to get me, afraid and every noise will startle me and I'll have kind of a panic attack. Okay? At what's going to happen, what could happen, what might happen. But when something happens, okay, so if there's an accident out front, or if someone's at the door and does want something, or if my attention needs to be to something, I go, okay, and I go do it. I don't have that fear when it's a real something. I have it imagining something, and it's a trigger in my field, and once it triggers, it's like this tuning fork, right? It's this resonance, and it creates this fear and panic. And I have to, keep breathing or do whatever to calm that, to get back to the other frequency. All right, so holding your core frequency is key. No matter what anybody says to you, no matter what comes in your email, no matter what comes to your door, no matter what you're to deal with, okay, that's all things of humanness, okay? Trusting yourself, trust in God, trust in the Great Spirit, and trust in your own core frequency, and that what you created that's drawn to you, you're not a victim. I'm not a victim. I am not a victim. I'm not a victim. You created that. And if you don't prefer it, you'll create something else. There's no reason to fear it or worry about it. And I try to tell my PTSD this all the time. We're still working on it. We're still working on it. Okay, and every single thought has a frequency. Okay, so when this really sinks in, you don't dare have a negative thought. You don't dare have a thought that makes you feel bad. It was reminding me the other day, Spirit was reminding me, all of a sudden I just felt this horrible emotion, and I felt just really, and Spirit's reminded me that came from a thought you just had. No, this is me, my heart, I'm sad, I'm down, I have this. Well, yeah, but it's because you had a thought, and that's what created the emotion. I'm like, okay, so the thought creates the emotion, so have a different thought. And make it sound so easy, right? But if you can change the thought, and like all the Abraham Hicks stuff says, within 17 seconds, you change the thought, you don't let that frequency magnetize. So, which is kind of a resonance, right? So you don't let that new introduced frequency out of nowhere, fear, panic, whatever, you don't let it create a resonance in you. This Abraham Hicks stuff says 17 seconds. You can change the thought sooner. You change your frequency so you don't resonate with that fear, with that lower vibration. So if you don't, you keep lamenting in it, you're going to resonate with the lower vibration, and then you just sink into it, and then you're depressed, and then you're down, and then you're sad. Okay. And then you can only see things in a lower vibration. And you can only see the things in the lower vibration if you believe in them. You can't tune into something that you don't believe is real or that you don't believe is out there. You just can't. Everything is frequency. All right. So when you join the vibration of something, you shift your core. Okay. So when you're sitting there talking with someone and you're like believing with them, or you're commiserating, or even pretending to be someone you're not, pretending to like something you don't, you are resonating with their belief. You're resonating with, you're joining them in their vibration. So if they're lower vibration, complaining about something, and you're like, oh yeah, me too, and you're kind of lowering, then you're choosing to resonate with them. And oftentimes to kind of see where they're at, and sometimes we do that, but, them choosing, a lot of times the lower vibration, people that are in lower vibration, they don't really want to resonate with you in the higher vibration. They get mad, they get angry, they get agitated because they don't want to shift or change their reality, their perspective. Even though they're talking about they want something better, they're only able to focus on that lower vibration. And I get it. Some of the energies I went into in homeless stuff, I couldn't get that higher vibration. I would feel it in the water. I would feel it, the air. I mean, I see beautiful things every day and have that. But at the same time, there was this stuck energy where I couldn't believe that there was a way out, right? It had been so long since I'd had housing or credit or, an income or the life I had before. It was just so long. How do I re-resonate with the version of me that has that? And so I was able to shift out of that and manifest it, and then manifest, and then manifest. Every level, you can manifest another level by where you believe and where you allow yourself to resonate. Okay, and we'll talk a lot more about this because the resonance between consciousness and then the consciousness from cell to cell is a resonance. There's a whole bunch to this, and we probably won't get to scalar waves today, but I've talked about them before. And so just real quick on the scalar waves of, so an example of, say out in the yard, there's a hose and it's 100 feet long. And say the hose is full of water, okay? And it's just sitting there and both ends are closed. You close one, you open one end and water comes out. So that's the energy. The energy was always in the hose, but you open one end and it comes out where you open it. So the scalar waves theory is that the energy is there, out there for everything. Everything has been thought of. Everything is out there in this big soup of energy, or all these quantum lines, all these hoses, there's quantum lines everywhere. And when you're the right frequency and you're the right vibration and you're the right, waves and curves and the right energy, that hose will open up on you. That scalar wave energy that's already there will open to you. So whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a miracle healing, whether it's a house, whether it's a book or a person, or that your focus and your consciousness and your frequency will open up that tap at the end of that energy field, which is you, based on where you're at. So there's a lot to scalar wave stuff. So check that stuff out. Okay. Right. Turning waves to particles in your area. Okay. So like if you see on the news, all this negative stuff about the world, or the weather, or just anything at all. And you look at it and you go, okay, well, like I look at it as a sign of, okay, new earth and change or whatever. But if you worry about it and you contemplate and you focus on it and you lament about it, then you create its potential. You turn waves and particles into your area. So they're out there, but the more you focus on it in your area, you create it then in your area. And the more of us in this area that then focus on it, we create it in our area, which could be, any sort of natural disaster or anything, what you might seem as positive or negative or whatever, based on what you're focusing on, what you believe can or can't be. You're turning waves to particles in your particular area. And then you can do it within your own area. Like within my house, I live in a different reality than all of those around me. And everyone pretty much does. But I don't really go out now much, and I don't have kids, and so I don't have schools and sports, and I'm not in that world, and so I don't have that world resonating and feeding back to me, except for when I reach out to it. And I do get resonance with my anti-corruption stuff, and sometimes it's not pretty. And so then that's my choice point over and over. But in the big picture, I'm done with that. I still got some things I'm doing, some different legal cases following through and some different cleanup. But in general, Spirit tells me I'm done. So I'm not going to be turning all that over anymore. I'm moving on to create a different reality for myself, and they can have at it. This last election shifted the energy. We moved into this other phase of New Earth, and there's this big split going on. And there's nobody to awaken, there's nobody to enlighten, there's nobody to heal, there's nothing. It's just focusing on myself and creating the reality I want. I do have some cleanup work. And so, but in general, fighting corruption, fighting against injustice, that's no longer where I'm at. I'm throwing some things out there now, and I have some lawsuits and things that are going to be wrapped up. But in general, they can have their darkness. I've done what Spirit asked me to do, and I'm no longer interested in their dark reality or believing in their corruption or their system in their way, and I'm rising above that and doing something different. Again, there's some cleanup work. Things are coming at me to be cleaned up, and Spirit will lead me. It is what it is. Okay, so, all right, the powers that be, so the bad guys, used fear to resonate more fear so that you would give them money, time, energy. What does money represent to the dark entities, right? Your energy. They're feeding off of your fear. So if they're taking your money, they're taxing you, they're creating fear. So we moved into New Earth. A lot of that's lifted. So now they're trying to create it in these other ways. But they use their knowledge of the resonance of fear to create so much fear that it would resonate between person to person to person. And, all these different people become your handlers. And one nasty person saying something, then another, then they're all kind of doing it. And, you're like, that's nothing to do with me. And you're resonating and pushing out a different frequency. This is like the mob versus the one, like individual sovereignty versus this other energy. But they use their knowledge of resonance to create fear. And you can use your knowledge of resonance to create love. Now, if you're saying, this is me being loving, but it's clear that you're not, the energy and the words don't match. Words are spells, words are frequencies, words are powerful. What you say every day, what you engage in, what you lie about, what you put out there in the ether about other people that's so untrue. And in the courts and the governments of man, you create this energy in your field of this darkness, and that resonates with others. And I reject all of that darkness. And I invoke the power of the light. And even just talking about that stuff, we need to do another cleanse. Okay? If your ears are sensitive, plug them. We're going to cleanse it. Spirit's going to help us. Cleansing all those dark lines and all those places I just named. And so it is done. Okay, so when we resonate with ourself, with our whole being, thoughts can flow without a trigger attaching to an emotion. Okay, so that's what Spirit said today. Okay, so when you're resonating within yourself, you're holding your core frequency in your whole body, then you have a trigger come up. You can just kind of sit there. You can observe it with no action. Don't put a story of the past. Don't future trip. It just flows through you because you're sitting there in your core frequency and and you trust yourself so much that there's a reason there. There's a reason the Spirit brought this to you. And you don't let that trigger resonate you to a different vibration. You just let it flow through when you're at that point where you can resonate with self and hold that core frequency. And yeah. Okay, so when people say that resonates with me, that's literal, the frequency. Okay, so right, it's all floating in the ether at all time, and you just pick it. You're a transmitter and you're a receiver. You're sending stuff out into the ether. They say what you seek is seeking you, right? So what the thoughts you put out, you're like, okay, well, here's this. And then any like thoughts, light frequency will resonate with that and gather. And once it's gathered enough momentum and enough energy, it manifests that in your life, or it brings these people to you, or these events, or these things through your focused thoughts, and through what you transmit. Then you receive, because then you become a frequency and you tune into a certain reality and you literally see a different reality, or you get something in the mail. It's like, okay, here's this good news, and here's this house, and here's this car, and here's this good health news, and here's this loving person, and here's all of these things that manifest based on your frequency. Is you, the receiver, tuning into that reality. You, the transmitter, is your consciousness and your thoughts going out. Okay. And then, so yeah, we talked some about scalar waves. Right, so intentions, so toning, tone. Just ask Spirit to just give you a tone and just make a sound. Used to have these groups, so I'd invite like 30 people over, and we'd do toning and drumming. And we'd all start, and it sounded very chaotic, right? Just any tone at all, high tone, low tone, whatever. And then it only took a couple minutes, and then we were all resonating. It was so cool. And I would always set an intention at the beginning of the meeting. Sometimes we do healings on different people that had different health issues or different things going on. And set an intention, intention and sound. When you state an intention and you make a sound, which is why words spoken out loud, you're vibrating to a sound when you say your affirmations out loud, and you're hearing them back. So we would make an intention, and we would all just tone and drum. And like I said, it was just, none of it matched, none of it whatever. And then we'd all just come in sync. We all started resonating like we were all tuning forks. It's beautiful. But do that with people. Do toning in every aspect of your life. Tone over your food, tone with your partner in intimacy, tone out in the woods, tone in the water, tone with animals, creating a frequency and a resonance. It's creating all things and healing. It's so healing to you. Okay, so when we direct our thoughts, focus, and consciousness, okay, the spot in the body, I talked about that, and sending energy out. And also, Rife, look up Royal Rife and that stuff. I guess, yeah. And learn about scalar waves. But the bottom line is, what it really validates is that you're magic. Your focus is your magic wand. Your words are your power and your wand. Your words are create realities. Your thoughts have vibrations and create reality. So your thoughts may not seem to have a sound, but they have a frequency that goes out and matches other thoughts. It's fascinating. And when they say, we all experience this. You're talking to your friend. So say I'm talking to my friend about getting a green winter coat, and then all of a sudden I'll be fed ads on my phone of a green winter coat, and I'll be like, yeah, my phone's listening to me. Okay, well, it happens to me with things I've thought and I've never said to anybody. I'll start getting ads for things I think about. So this new tech in New Earth, it's not like going, oh my gosh, they're listening, they're spying. What if you look at it as you're being fed through your phone ideas for what you're thinking and what you're resonating out into the world to have what it is that your thoughts want, or that you whether it's high vibe or low vibe. It's kind of like this universal quantum algorithm that brings you anything you want. The universe, the all creating, knowing quantum realm doesn't differentiate this is good and this is bad. It's just like, what do you prefer and what you don't prefer? How does it know what you prefer, this big consciousness? Well, it knows because where you focus. So it doesn't say, if you focus on how bad things are, then your consciousness creator quantum machine out there, something called the universe or source, feeds back to you what you're thinking about all the time because it thinks that's what you want. But instead of thinking about what you don't want in your life, think about what you do want in your life, more and more and more. It's a little bit on resonance. Kryon is Kryon, and been listening to for 30 years. Bashar, Basher. I've been listening to Daryl Ank for the last 10 years, but only the last 5 years I've been listening to Elan, Elan, and I have a Rumble channel called that. Was channeling Bashar. That was channelings before Daryl Ank. And then Bringers of the Dawn, Barbara Marciniak, the audiobook is on YouTube, and so is Earth. And then the Seth writings, there's a bunch of audiobooks about that. Listen to as much Abraham Hicks as you can, and then other Pleiadian information. But, last night it was just so profound to go, okay, well, it's not just all of this sound healing and toning and power of positive thoughts and things that I thought before and how we're literally manifesting physical reality. But I saw the resonance between cells. I saw every thought of mine resonating with other thoughts of mine, resonating with other people's thoughts that will then gather and then create enough energy to bring me whatever I want. Okay, well, when I think about creating the life I want, I go, well, I don't know my options, because in this realm, I sometimes get a little negative. I'm like, in this realm, this government's a man, these restrictions, this whatever. I don't know what I want here. Because, I mean, I live a witchy, supernatural, sci-fi world, and that's more what I want. You know, I want interdimensional travel, and I want to teleport, and I want to just, you know, change my hair color all the time, or my avatar. Like, I live in this world in my dreams, and I lucid dream, and I do things that are so magical that when I come back to this reality, it's kind of a dud. But then I go, no. But when I really stay in the now, when I walk around, I pick up crystals, pick up things, really be in this now. I mean, you know, touch things, go out and touch plants, talk to plants. We're in New Earth now. So it's not a dud anymore. When I talk to things and when I put my energy out and then I get energy back, and it's kind of fast. So anything, any trigger or trauma I have to deal with, if I put anything out about it, especially with higher emotion, boom, I get it right back. Then we're like, I did my sermon yesterday about the return of the dragon, because this is the year of the dragon, and that ends like January 20th. That it's now being sped up. What we put out, we get back. What we put out, we get back, because we're getting a choice point of, come on, well, so is this the life you want? So this is what you like? Okay, well, keep doing that, and you're going to get this. Keep doing that, and you're going to get this. You know, keep touching the hot stove, going to keep burning you. And so we're getting these choice points over and over and over, and I'm certainly no exception. So there is that. So your thoughts literally create your physical reality, your repeated thoughts. They say, I always like this one, that just because a bird lands on your doorstep doesn't mean you have to let it build a nest. So yes, thoughts come in. It might hurt your feelings. You might be triggered, but you don't have to feed them. You don't have to feed them with people and past. You don't have to look at anything at all and go, well, I've experienced that 10 times and this is how it is. You can go, this is the now, this now moment. Experience this now moment new from what's in this now moment. And then the next moment, do the same. I call it the radical now. And don't feed the thoughts of, I wish it could have been this way, and I wish this person was this way, and in the future I'm going to do this, in the past I wished I'd have done that, and you know, and just feeding it with all this other, building the nest on the door, when you could just let it flow to the next moment and choose what your highest joy is, this moment, this moment, this moment. Anyway, more on that another day. I love you. Okay, bye for now.